Hello, I'm B. Rosen, and today I'm going to be talking about some of the failings of the social services system, and namely how that affects people in the foster care system, that's children and young people in care. I'm going to cover more about these topics in other videos, but this video is simply to give a generalized overview, talking about the increased risks to children in care. Let's get straight into the video.
We find Callum at his friend's house playing computer games.
I would have this pad ball, wouldn't I?
He's 21 now. From the age of 7, he was regularly beaten, before being taken in by his grandmother and then ending up in care.
The amount of times that I'd actually had to explain myself to different support workers time and time again, it's just gone, right, I'm this person, and then 2 weeks later, I'm getting a new worker going, right, I'm this person, I'm your worker. 3 weeks later, I'm this person, I'm your worker. And it got to the point where I snapped.
People need to stop with the judginess, because prejudice is stupid. It's unrealistic, and it's for closed-minded people. People need to open their mind and actually realise what's going on in the world.
Situations like this are all too common in the social services system. The idea that somebody's emotional well-being as someone who is without their family is put after levels of bureaucracy and very cold ways of working. In fact, common issues faced by those in care often include being abused and neglected by those that care for them, or should I say, are supposed to care for them. Many accounts of social services personnel bullying and harassing children and young people often go unnoticed. And of course, dealing with harassment and bullying from social services and the people that care for them often causes children or young people from 18 to 24 to actually walk away, but then they are labelled by their council as intentionally homeless and will receive no support whatsoever.
We've come to meet Liberty, who's just turned 18. Care leavers can prepare their universal credit application in advance, so it's ready to submit on their 18th birthday. Then they have the standard 5-week wait for their first payment. Liberty's asked us not to show his face, so his support worker Paige explains the shock when the money just didn't appear. There was no warning, and now his food's running out.
I've had to ring up Universal Credit and find out why, and it was due to a misunderstanding about an appointment. So Liberty had been to so many but missed one, and this one wasn't even on his journal. He is in a full-time apprenticeship, but they've not been lenient at all towards that for his appointments, for his payments. They've not even considered it. He doesn't get asked about it.
So Liberty has had to restart his claim from scratch. He's already waited 5 weeks for money. Now he'll have to wait another 5.
They've said basically there's nothing they can do. The only thing Liberty can actually access is our food bank, and the food bank, he can only use that three times of that month.
Liberty, where will you get money from for the rest of this month then?
I don't know really yet. I feel like that's always a challenge above the head to try and go past it, but I am trying my best to try and do it.
You seem like a really positive person.
Yeah, it's got to be positive. These situations, not me,
Yeah.
Best I can do.
These situations are so worrying when we know that these young people do not have strong family networks to lean back on. According to a range of charities, 81,000 young people are in care at the moment. The number of children in care has increased by 10% over the pandemic. 25% of homeless people used to be in care. 25% of people in prison used to be in care as well, which shows that there's a failing in the emotional support of these young people. 50% of under 21s in contact with the criminal justice system were also in care. And again, this is showing just how little the young people in care feel that they're actually being cared for. 41% of all care leavers from 19 to 21 years old are not in any form of education, training, or employment. which is a worrying figure. To compare that last figure with that of the general population of 19 to 21-year-olds, 41% of care leavers are NEET, not in employment, education or training. And that's actually comparable to the general population sitting at only 13%. Again, that's a massively inflated statistic compared to what the general population is experiencing in Great Britain.
Obviously, my mum was in the shower, innit, and then I just heard her screaming, and then they just drove us away, innit? That was it. Like, I'm the man, like, do you know what I mean? I'm the only boy, so, but being young and not being able to protect my family, like, that's left me, like, obviously, like, yeah, I'm like, do you know what I mean? That's why I was probably so, like, violent and that. You just bury it, don't you? Do you know what I mean? And move on. That's what people expect you to do because it's in your childhood and that, do you know what I mean? They just try to treat me, yeah? Like, I'm so trying mum's life, yeah? I haven't raised my own like a Trump move. My mum, yeah, she raised us properly and that.
And we can speak to Jamal there. We saw you getting really upset there. I mean, how did you feel watching that back?
All right, to be honest. Not surprised and that.
I mean, you get frustrated by the system itself. Why is that?
Because I know the system's wrong.
And what are some of your frustrations? I mean, you've been in care for most of your life, haven't you?
Yeah.
You went into care.
Yeah.
And what happened there?
Well, when I went into care, like, basically, they just took us randomly one day. We were just chilling, me and my sisters chilling, normal day. Bare police turned up, social workers took us. We fell asleep because we was on a journey for ages, and when we woke up, we was in like the countryside and that. Do you know what I mean? And then there was some strangers, and then that was it. Then we moved from there after about a year, went to my Auntie Bev's. Then they split us all up. We all went to different foster placements and stuff. I went to care homes. I started breaking the law. I got kicked out of every school. Do you know what I mean? That was it, innit? Just that on repeat until I got a bit older.
Jamal, hugely traumatic.
It is hard to imagine and quantify the effect that this has on a person's emotions, sense of identity and sense of belonging. In fact, care leavers in England are at abnormally high risk of substance misuse, criminality, mental and physical health issues, sex trafficking, would you believe, and exploitation, and also homelessness and unemployment, poverty in general, and being abused again. Following on from that increasingly troubling exploitation and trafficking statistic, in the UK, 24% of trafficked children came from care. 20% of trafficked cared for children were never even found again. And 15% of unaccompanied children found wandering the streets were meant to be in care. Absolutely shocking. There's actually music in the background of this clip, so I shall have to explain very quickly that supported housing is for older young people to transition into independence from care. But many children as young as 14 and 13 were actually found in a Newsnight investigation to be living in these unsupported properties.
That child is still in care, but we've spoken to her and others who lived here. She told us that for the first 10 days, she slept under that blanket and her coat until an adult friend bought her a duvet. She also says that sometimes in this house she was so hungry that when she smelt the staff cooking their own meals, she'd come downstairs and beg them for food. She says they refused.
Whether it be from social workers or even the people that are meant to be foster carers and caring for these young people, there are high levels of sexual violence, verbal coercion and blackmail. On top of that, there's a hell of a lot of exploitation, neglect, underfeeding. On top of that, there's also a good dollop of manipulation and emotional abuse reported by young children in care. and often ignored. Such a situation as this, happening in 2022 in Great Britain, absolutely shocks me. I don't know about you. I don't intend to stop here. I know many people personally who've been in such situations, and I intend to bring more awareness to this situation.
Paige was deemed a child in need. Their councils put them into this unregulated accommodation, which is supposed to help teenagers aged 16 and over transition into independence. But as we've established, they were also living with under 16s. We've previously reported that local authorities do put younger teens into this type of accommodation, even though Ofsted says they shouldn't. Last week, Newsnight revealed the government has written to all council chief executives in England saying it wants placements of under 16s in supported accommodation eliminated. That's because these homes aren't set up to offer children care, only support. Though Echo says in the Birmingham home, they didn't even get much of that.
I've never felt more unsecure and unlooked after and unsupported ever. And due to being a child, I have a very difficult background. And for that to be my worst experience, it says a lot.
Do you think that the under 16s were safe in that house?
No.
Mr Gabula is filling a gap for local authorities, and putting younger children in these homes isn't illegal.
You're certainly the first provider who has openly said to us, yes, I take under 16s, and has agreed to do an interview. Why did you agree to that, do you think?
What's there to hide? When you are providing a service to vulnerable children, what's there to hide?
How much do you charge councils for a place like this?
You're asking me a very interesting question, and that I would not divulge because that's commercial sensitive information.
It's got to be thousands, though.
It's just like regulated provisions charge thousands. Costs and charges are always determined by the level of risk, the level of staffing input, and also placement outcomes to be achieved.
And are you saying you don't put under 16s with older children in?
We don't mix that.
Contrary to our evidence, Mr Gabula insists his company's under 16s are housed in properties like this one, separate from older children and with their own team of support staff.
What concerns me the most about that is that his statements are contrary to the evidence that's been put forward, and that is extremely concerning to me, and I'm sure it is to you. What do you feel can be done to protect the most vulnerable children? Have you ever been a cared-for child? What was your experience? Please let us know. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I appreciate comments, thoughts, especially when they're very thought out. I think everybody can gain from what you have in mind and your opinions too.